Hey YouTube. Uh, so I thought I'd do another video on the upcoming regs and rules. Um, I went back and tried to find some industry testing on e-bike stuff, and it's really far and few behind. Between there's a couple of companies out there that do test their bikes, Trek, Amington, Rad, and a few of the big names in e-bikes, but there's a lot of companies, including those that just grab parts off the shelf, that have already been tested by uh, manufacturers for regular bikes, but not e-bikes. So who knows? Like, for example, the brakes on my electric, when they came, they were at best bad. When the bike came out and I rode it for the first time, I was thinking, yeah, rim brakes would stop this bike faster than these disc brakes, and they're hard to keep in adjustment too. So, yeah, an example of bike brakes grabbed off the shelf, the lever redesigned for a motor cutoff, and then them putting them on an e-bike. They work, but they don't work as well as they could. Um, So a lot of manufacturers are just grabbing parts off for a regular bike and putting them on an e-bike, and the standard uh, wants to create a separate standard for e-bikes because they go faster and tend to weigh more and tend to have more failures for some reason. Uh, One of the biggest failures they're listing is on the crank arms. Crank arms pedals cause more accidents than any other bike. I can imagine if your pedal breaks off when you're going down the road or falls apart, you got to imagine that you're going to lose balance on the bicycle. If you're an inexperienced rider, maybe even cause you to have a serious crash. So, yeah. So who knows? Even on my $3,000 bike here, what's been tested to e-bikes and what hasn't? Europeans have a lot of standards for e-bikes. Like I've talked about, some countries limit their bikes to 15.5 miles an hour before they start cutting off pedal assistance. Uh, and some are 20 miles an hour. In the United States, for a throttle, it's supposed to cut throttle at 20 miles an hour, but there's bikes out there that are going 35. Those bikes are unregulated right now. What that means is there has they're not classified as an e-bike anymore if it'll go faster than 20 miles an hour with throttle only. So if you got a bike out that'll go 35 on throttle only, you're not on a class 1, 2, or 3. You're on something else. You're probably in the same category as a Ciron. Um, the 28, now when you're pedaling, the bike can go as there's really no set standard. There's most states limited at 28 miles an hour, and if your bike goes faster than 28 miles an hour when you're pedaling, you're not on any of the classes of e-bikes. You're on an unregulated bike, uh, or you're on something the state would say isn't an e-bike. So, yeah, uh, some states, some states don't just say that you know don't have the federal regulation does not regulate the speed with pedal assistance. You could go as fast as you want by the federal standard, but by state standards, in Michigan, it's 28 miles an hour, and it's considered a class 3 bike whether it has a throttle or not at 28 miles an hour. Uh, for this trail here is only open to class 1, and that was just a recent addition. In the past, they haven't even allowed class 1 bikes by law on this trail. Um, Now, that being said, if you're disabled, just disregard. You can ride what you want. You can't ride a moped on this, or you can't ride a scooter on this trail. But well, actually, you could. You can ride any mobility device that helps you function. So now, the biggest outtake from this proposed regulations for me is that they're going to come up with a mechanical standard for e-bikes. They need to test things, and they need to know that they will hold up to the extra weight, the extra speed, and so on and so forth. In Europe, they have even a standard for inner tubes and tires for an e-bike. They make e-bikes specifically speed rated tires. And why would you need a different tire for an e-bike? Weight. Tire flex. If you go around a corner on my electric, I noticed that the tire flexes left or right quite a bit going around the corner, so that it adds to instability on the bike. And the fact that most of the tires that you find on the e-bikes are really low quality. They just aren't made to even a regular bike standard. Now, the Consumer Product Safety Agency does not test tires, so maybe they need to. So if you've got an e-bike, the bike is a lot heavier than a standard bike, and tires wear out quickly, more so on most e-bikes than on a regular bike. Yeah, you can wear out tires on a regular bike fairly fast too. So basically, my outtake is they're going to start testing e-bikes to make sure they meet the standard, and the components or the sum of the e-bike will all be tested to make sure the frames. There's been some frame failures, which is hard to believe, but yeah, there's frame failures out there. There's pedal failures, crank arm failures, and handlebar stem failures, because they're tested for a regular bike. And when that kid's out there trying to pull a wheelie on that bike, he's pulling up harder on those handlebars because there's extra weight to get that bike up. When you land, there's extra weight on those wheels and tires and frame too, so it all adds up. So they're really looking at creating a standard, and they're really looking to regulate kids' bikes too, because they tend to forget that they're mortal and do stupid stuff. So now that's what my outtake on so far, what I've read and everything. See, what was really surprising to me was the crank arm failure. Oops. I kicked my bike and knocked these guys over. Is the crank arm failures, because most of them were impact forged and are really strong, but in this case, they're not really strong, evidently. Lots of failures for a crank arm. And how they're attached. So if you got a creaky noise or you feel a flex in your crank arms, you need to have them inspected. Make sure that you're not going to end up breaking one and end up on your face on the trail somewhere, or worse. So to sum it up, and now I gotta get back on the trail. It's too warm to sit around here today. Sum it up is, if you're on a class 1 or class 2, you're probably not going to see much changes in your bike standards. But if you're on a class 3, it may be defined a little further. Now, if you're on any class bike that goes 35 miles an hour, you're not technically on an e-bike, you're on something else, probably a moped. So keep that in mind. If you're going 35 miles an hour and they finally make police start enforcing the standards, you have a chance that you'll get pulled over and given a ticket for having a non-conforming bike on a bike trail or on the road or wherever. But I already posted the standards out there. If you look in the Federal Register of the federal government, it's available with some summations that weren't available in the document that I posted. So look on the Federal Register, and they explain a little more about why they're doing this. So I seen a couple of comments, well, I only go 25 miles an hour on the bike trails, and there's people always passing me. Well, if you're going 25, you're riding a moped on a bike trail. That's what the government's saying. That might be what your state's saying, and maybe your state hasn't passed any regulations for e-bikes, but I think the vast majority have. And if they don't have a standard already passed for an e-bike class, then you fall under the federal guidelines, which is your bike shouldn't go faster than 20 miles an hour when it's under assistance. Have a great day. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. If you don't like what I said, put them in the comments. I should say something about subscriptions. I have less than 1% of the people watching these videos subscribe. I don't know what to say about that. You don't like the videos, then don't subscribe. I don't blame you. If they don't meet some need that you have, then I probably should stop making videos for the general audience and turn this into a pay channel where you only get to watch the videos that you pay to watch. But I'm not all about the money. I don't really care about the money. I would like to get my subscriptions up to a level that could sustain a pay channel, or a channel where I make enough money to do upgrades and stuff like that. But at this point, I don't see that happening for another 3 or 4 years, if ever. I think we're at 1,154 subscribers. We've had 75 new subscribers this month, but still, it's less than 1% of the people who watch the videos. I had 18,000 views in the last 28 days and got 75 subscribers out of those 18,000 unique views, meaning people who haven't visited the channel. Only 1% of them, less than 1%, subscribe to the channel. Have a great day.